What is going on, guys? NandoPrince93 here with another video, and today is the iPad Pro only challenge 6 months later. Here we go.
You better fucking call me back on my cell phone. I'm done doing this thing with you, chasing you, until the part where you exhaust me. What you have already. What the fuck are you doing? I mean, you really want it to be over? Is that what you want? Are you gonna be a happy boy then? I just know. That's what you told me. So I guess I should just listen to that. You better call me soon, because I'm done chasing you. I can't express it to you enough.
So as most of our following knows, this channel is very iPad Pro centric and like what it's like to live, your work life or your hobby life or your just everyday consumption life with an iPad Pro and nothing else. So I've been doing that since I think about July now at this point, because I did like a 6-month financing, zero interest from Amazon to get this iPad Pro, and I'm done with those payments. So that's what we're dealing with now. I've been using the iPad Pro only for about 99.9% of what I do, like my daily tasks inside of my professional work and for YouTube and, like I said, for content consumption. And I have literally almost no regrets, guys. My only regret is like a choice that I had, which is going with the Wi-Fi only as opposed to the cellular version of the iPad Pro, because I thought to myself, hey, I can just hotspot my phone if I really am in a pickle and need some internet on my iPad right away. But even though I guess it is kind of seamless, that's like my only regret of like a choice that I made with the iPad Pro. Right? The next one that comes out, or the next one that I buy, is going to be a cellular version model of the iPad Pro, just because it makes things that much more efficient, that much more convenient, and that much easier to actually get through your day and do what you need to do with the iPad Pro. So just real quick, we're going to run through some of the specs of the one that I have. I have the 12.9-inch silver model, 256 gigabyte Wi-Fi only. I got it on Amazon when it was on sale. It was about $150 to $200 off for this exact model compared to like the Apple retail pricing. And to this day, there's a bunch of deals for the iPad Pro, because again, it is 14, 15 years old in terms of how long it's been out. It came out in November of 2018, so it's been a little while since it's been out. So you guys know that there's going to be deals. Best Buy always has great deals. Amazon has great deals. Don't ever go to the Apple Store and get yourself an iPad Pro. There's like literally zero perks to going to the Apple Store and getting one, unless you have an Apple card, and at that point you get 3% cash back. But 3% on like a $1,000 device is only $30 compared to like saving $150 on Amazon or on Best Buy or whatever the case may be. So if you do get an iPad Pro in 2020, which I still think is a viable option, guys, like the new iPad Pro won't release until 2020, fall 2020. The only thing that they're going to update with the actual iPad itself, from a hardware perspective, I think it's going to stay the same, except for the camera. Technology is going to change in the back. I don't know if they're going to add the iPhone 11 camera, the iPhone 11 Pro camera, or just maybe its own different version, because I know that they're going to go with augmented reality, and that's what they're going to push towards with the camera. We might get an OLED display, but again, it has 120 hertz ProMotion display already, so you don't need to worry about it being 60 hertz. And then you're going to get the A13 or A14X Bionic chip, the next chipset. But again, at the end of the day, this thing is still a tank. It's still super powerful, and I've had literally zero hiccups when it comes to performance with this thing. So I'll take you guys through basically my workflow and like my setup and some of the things that I've had to work around, or even if I did need to work around at all, to kind of get through my workflow and not miss a traditional laptop or not miss a traditional desktop solution to getting your work done. So for my everyday work, I strictly just communicate via email and phone calls, right? There's only one, it's not even an application, it's like a plugin or an extension for Chrome that I need for my work to make calls, because that's the way they track it internally and all those things, that unfortunately I can't get on the iPad yet because of the fact that Chrome has not updated itself to be a full desktop class browser, so I can't run extensions. And even though Safari is technically a desktop class browser, the extensions portion of Safari is still unavailable on the iPad Pro. So if you guys are a big extension person that needs it to do whatever you need, or like you guys use a lot of extensions, sadly that is not going to come over whether you do use it on Chrome or on Safari, right? When it comes to desktop class browsing on Safari, it just means the web page is open in full form and you don't get that watered down iOS version of it. That's what that means pretty much. So for work, again, 99% of my everyday work, my 9-to-5 job, I can do on the iPad. Unless I'm making, like I said, unless I need that one little plugin, that extension that kind of tracks my phone calls going out, for internal purposes, like I said, I can use my iPad for pretty much everything. And then if we transition over to the other side, which is, the YouTube side, as you guys can see, I finally got my monitor. It's a 24-inch monitor, and you can see that it's taking up the entire screen, right? And that's because I'm using LumaFusion And LumaFusion allows you to use your secondary monitor as a second display when it comes to viewing what you're putting out. So basically like a live render and a view of what you're doing when you're editing videos. Or that is the only time that LumaFusion will take advantage of the screen, right? As you guys can see, I still have, like, it won't disappear, like the preview won't disappear from my iPad screen. It'll just enlarge on this part, and I can still use and view my timeline on here. So that's really the only time that it does that. Otherwise, if you guys can see, if I go back to the home screen, you get letterboxed, right? So when it comes to having it as a desktop solution, this is something that you're going to deal with. There's no workaround. I haven't been able to find any plugin, any jailbreak, anything to kind of stretch this out and allow it to use a full 24-inch display. Because look at it, right now I'm using what, 16, 17 inches of the display, because it brings it back down to that 4:3 ratio, aspect ratio that it has, and your letterboxed. So if Apple really wants to kind of make this your end-all be-all desktop solution, they're gonna have to fix this through software, right? And allow me to use this as a secondary display as opposed to a mirrored display, which is the only thing that allows you to do. But other than that, yes, I did add this monitor, but before the monitor, everything was done off this iPad, right? So I'll show you, I have my basis 6-in-1 to be able to use the HDMI cable to use the monitor. It allows me to use USB sticks. It has another USB-C port to charge and data pass-through, auxiliary cable. So everything that I would have on my laptop and then some, because MacBook Pros only have USB-C, right? So you're gonna get a dongle regardless if you're gonna need more. It has SD card readers, which I don't use, because again, my workflow is very iOS focused. I record on my iPhone 11 Pro, and then I airdrop everything. And people have had issues with large file sizes. I record in 1080p full HD at 60 frames per second, and then I airdrop it, and the clips are usually less than 10 minutes. It's very rare that I go a single clip and go longer than 10 minutes. And people have said they have like 20-minute 4K files that just won't transfer over through AirPlay. And I don't know if that's maybe because it's too big. Because a 20-minute 4K file is going to be in the gigabytes, right? You're going to be 4 or 5 gigs. And if you're airdropping that, maybe there is a little bit of interruption. Maybe it just doesn't work with such a large file sizes. So at that point, just cut it and send them over one by one. But for me, this solution has worked perfectly. So I'm very dongle-less. Like a lot of people who live the dongle lifestyle when using an iPad or even when using a MacBook Pro, and I'm dongle-less. I don't have a camera that uses an SD card reader. I don't have a micro SD card. I don't use an external hard drive just yet because my iPad still has plenty of space. So that's what we're dealing with when it comes to my workflow. Everything is cordless, wireless. The only reason I have the 6-in-1 hub is for reasons like this, to have the monitor. If I want to do plug in an auxiliary, a classic 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, so it's there when I need it. But other than that, I'm usually totally wireless, and I can do all of my work on the move. iPhone in one hand, iPad on the desk, doing whatever I need to do. And that's pretty much what my YouTube workflow looks like. And then for content consumption, again, Netflix, amazing. YouTube, amazing. Hulu, like all these apps work amazing on the screen. And it has, the quad speakers. You got stereo sound, which is unbelievable. It's louder than every single laptop I've ever owned. Yeah, sure, the 16-inch MacBook Pro came out, but you're gonna have to ante up $2,400 to get that speaker system. And at that point, if all you want is better sound, get yourself a soundbar, get yourself a Bluetooth speaker. But one thing, so we're touching on basically all the positive of each different workflow, and then I'm gonna touch on the negatives also. So one of the negatives when it comes to my YouTube workflow, especially now that I added this monitor and it's plugged in through an HDMI cord, when you plug in an HDMI cable, HDMI took place of those 3 pin connectors, the yellow, red, and white, and 2 of them were for audio, 1 of them was for visual. HDMI does it all in one cable, but it gets confused and tries to pass through the sound into this TV thinking it has speakers, and it doesn't have speakers, so there's no way to bypass that. So if you HDMI a monitor, make sure it has speakers, because you cannot use your iPad Pro speakers with a HDMI monitor. So what I have to do is either get myself a Bluetooth speaker, or right now I'm using my AirPods when I'm editing my video, so I can still use a monitor and take advantage of a larger screen to see what it looks like. If somebody does watch it on their computer, does watch it on the TV as opposed to their smartphone. So just to round off my thoughts on the iPad Pro challenge for these last 6 months, and to kind of give you guys the advice of what you should do if you're thinking about making the plunge into the iPad Pro only world, is think about what you're using every day, right? Why do you have your desktop? Why do you have your laptop? Right? And then also think about why you want to go to the iPad to begin with. Is it because of the portability? Is it because it stays in the Apple ecosystem? Is it because of the speakers that are super loud? Is it the ProMotion display? Think about what you're going to use this iPad for, and then start to think about the different applications that you absolutely need, right? Do you need a video editing app? Is that what you do every single day? Boom, you have it. Or do you need certain applications that don't exist in the App Store yet, right? Do you need Final Cut Pro, right? That doesn't exist in the iPad Pro yet. So, take note of everything that you use on a day-to-day basis and then figure out if you can do it. Like, look up if the application is there for you. Look up if there's workarounds for certain things that you want to do, that you need to do on a daily basis. But now with iPad OS and the new file system and the new multitasking, this has become a much more viable option. Before, the iPad Pro, iPads used to be just large iPod touches, or they used to be large iPhones that have no cellular connectivity before they added that in. But now with iPad OS, it's kind of changed the way people use iPads on a day-to-day basis. Like I said, for me, my main things are email, video editing, content consumption, right? That is what I deal with, and just being able and having the horsepower to do all that. And then even if you do have video editing needs, I don't video edit in like 8K raw footage. So, and even if I did, I think this could probably handle it. Maybe not as well as obviously a 1080p file, but I think it'll work and it'll handle it just fine, and it'll surprise people because this hardware is very future-proof. So again, think about what you use everything for. Think about if you can, use workarounds to use an iPad Pro for your everyday use. And for me, it works. Right? I take advantage of multitasking. I take advantage of the file system every single day. I take advantage of Safari and having a download manager, which is huge, right? That's how I download like my music off of SoundCloud and things like that. So for me, it works perfectly, and for 99% of people, I think it'll work fine. In the next like 3 years, I think this is what you're gonna see all over. Like, this is what you're gonna see at Starbucks, people working on. This is what you're gonna see people at WeWorks using, and things like that. So I highly recommend going the iPad route. Take the plunge if you guys want, or if anything, get an 11-inch, right? Or get a 12.9-inch, get a cheap one, and keep the receipt. See if you can get away with, like, use that 30-day return policy, and see if you can get away with using the iPad Pro only. And if you miss your laptop, go back to your laptop, So hopefully this kind of helps somebody out if they were on the fence of thinking like, hey, I can use the iPad Pro to its fullest extent. Comment below of, certain things that you guys want tested or certain things that you guys are unsure about, and I'll make like a follow-up video to this and kind of answer all those questions. So at the end of the day, it's your preference, whatever you guys want to do and whatever works for you. If you can get away with a $150 Chromebook, why spend $1,000 on something like this, right? But if you need a $5,000 MacBook Pro, then this isn't going to cut it, right? This won't do it for you. So it just depends on what you deal with on a day-to-day basis and if you can do it or not. And for me, as an email, phone guy, as a video editing guy, as a AirDrop iOS system, ecosystem guy, what's up, Archie? It works for me. So that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys made it to the end, thank you so much. I know it's a little bit of a long one, but I really wanted to dive in and kind of walk you through each of my workflows and what I use the iPad for and why I'm able to get away with it for the most part, right? It's for the most part. Once Apple fixes the secondary monitor situation and stops keeping us letterboxed, I found a guy on YouTube that does iOS renders and mock-ups of what they should look like. Comment below if you guys want me to kind of voice over his video, and I'll definitely link him below. His name is like Vince Designs or Vince by Design, something like that. And he's got some great iPadOS 14, suggestions and solutions, and the way he kind of portrays it is really, really nice. So comment below if you guys want to see that video. What I would do is I would just like screen record it and talk over why I think that solution is amazing. Like, give me the secondary monitor and I'll be the happiest guy alive, Apple. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. If you guys have questions, comment below. I read through every single comment and answer most of them eventually. So until next time, peace, guys.